So I'm realizing we left off part of the last set of seven, the seven visions showing the epic climax between the battle between the ancient serpent and the seed of the woman. We didn't finish chapter 15. And so let's just make sure we note that real quick. So remember in chapters 12, 13, and 14, we have one of the sevens of Revelation. And we saw the dragon at the beginning wanting to destroy the seed of the woman, but he failed and he was cast down to the earth. And he is enraged because he knows his time is short and the king has gone to heaven and reigned. And we saw through the rest of 12 that he is enraged against God's people. He's trying everything he can to destroy God's people, but he can't do it until finally he stands on the shore of the sea and he calls up his beast. And then it specifically says he is given authority to wage war on the saints and to conquer them. And then we see throughout the rest of 13 some of the darkest and most horrific descriptions of the third part of the story, and when the Antichrist is going to be reigning. But we also see that everyone who holds fast is reigning in heaven with Jesus Christ. And we also see that everybody who sells out and worships the beast will be punished forever and ever. But then we forgot to talk about where it explicitly talks about the fourth part of the story. And that begins in Revelation chapter 14, verse 14. And he says, "Then I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and seated on the throne one like a son of man, with a golden crown on his head." Remember, that's what we saw in the first seal, that one with the golden crown. "And a sharp sickle in his hand. And another angel came out of the temple, calling with a loud voice to him who sat on the cloud, 'Put in your sickle, reap, for the hour to reap has come, for the harvest of the earth is fully ripe.' So he who sat on the cloud swung his sickle across the earth, and the earth was reaped. Then another angel came out of the temple in heaven, and he too had a sharp sickle. And another angel came out from the altar, the angel who has authority over the fire, and he called with a loud voice to the one who had the sharp sickle, 'Put in your sickle, and gather the clusters from the vine of the earth, for its grapes are ripe.' So the angel swung his sickle across the earth, and gathered the grape harvest of the earth, and threw it into the great winepress of the wrath of God. And the winepress was trodden outside the city, and blood flowed from the winepress as high as a horse's bridle for 1,600 stadia." Now this is what we saw in the Gospels, that at the end of the age, the Son of Man, our King, is going to return, and it is portrayed as a harvest, that he is going to harvest the earth, he and his angels, right? And so that's what we see in the book of Revelation when Jesus comes back. So we see the same story being unplayed over and over, and this is a good time to remind ourselves about the apocalyptic genre, right? Now, when Jesus returns, I don't think that the Bible is trying to tell us that there is going to be a giant cosmic scythe, and we're really going to see a giant wheat harvesting tool in his hand. And I don't think it really means to tell us that he's actually going to put all the wicked of the world in a giant tub and move around and stomp around and dance around and squash them with giant God feet, right? That's not the idea. This is apocalyptic literature, and it paints the idea in pictures. And so the picture is one that would have been familiar to them at this time. The giant thing of grapes in a wine press, and people stomping them in the dark juices gushing out. And it would have been a very vivid imagery. But what it is just another way of talking about the same story with a new set of apocalyptic images, to where some of them are remaining consistent, but he's just telling the story in a different way over and over again.